You're listening to the Hawke Media Podcast, a podcast dedicated to helping entrepreneurs and executives crush the digital marketing game. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. Let's get into the show.
This is HawkeTalk with Eric Huberman. I'm here with Doug Ellin. How you doing today?
I'm good. I'm doing the same as I'm doing every day right now, I guess.
Yeah, it feels like Groundhog Day, huh?
I mean, it's worse than Groundhog Day now that, where are you? I don't even know where you were.
Santa Monica.
Yeah, so I mean, LA is now closing up again.
Fair.
So it's just, COVID disappeared for 2 weeks. It was over, and now it's back, and now, so it's just awful.
Yeah, no, I'm hoping. I keep saying I'm really hoping this nightmare ends soon, and that was not a good Friday afternoon.
I don't see it happening, so
I don't either. Yeah, I mean, we're not doing anything to stop it. It's a shame. But yeah, I want to dive in. I am a big fan of Entourage. I watched it from season 1 through, and I'm always curious how someone like you, how'd you get into that? Give me the whole nascent story from how'd you decide you wanted to be a writer? How did that happen? I'm sure.
My simple background, I went to Tulane. I had absolutely no connection with the entertainment industry whatsoever. I was a movie, film, comedy guy growing up. I don't mean doing it. I mean watching it. That was what I loved. But there was no plan. And my senior year of college, I was planning on going to law school. And my dad's a lawyer. My brother's a lawyer. And just, kind of following in those steps. And whatever happened in the last few weeks of college, besides I think I got rejected from most of the law schools. But I was like, I can't do this. This is just not what I want to do with my life. So the day I graduated college, actually in college, one of my friends signed me up for an amateur stand-up night at the local bar.
Was it a prank, or did they actually think you were you should be doing this?
Well, I think both. I think they thought I was funny, but I also think they thought I thought I was funny, because when we used to see stand-up comedians, I'm very critical. Movies of myself as well. So I get the other critics, but if I see stand-up, sometimes I'm like, I can't stand this person. So they signed me up and I did it, and I just got the bug, and I told my parents I'm not going to law school. I moved to LA the day I graduated Tulane University and started doing stand-up, got a job in the mailroom at New Line Cinema. And real simple summary story. I did a stand-up show, invited everyone from New Line to raise money for a short film. I had never, ever made a short film in my life. This is way pre iPhones and digital film. So making even a short film was a big endeavor. Yep. So I raised money. The vice president of New Line Cinema, Mike DeLuca, who's now Oscar-winning producer, gave me $10,000 out of his own pocket to make this short film. I made this short film that started just people I met around town when I was 22, pre-Friends, David Schwimmer, Ernie Hudson from Ghostbusters, Helen Martin from many, many movies, and Johnny Silverman. So ended up selling that to Showtime as a 10-minute short film and got into the American Film Institute. I went to AFI for a year, came out, made another short film. I got offered to direct and rewrite a movie called Phat Beach, which was a $100,000 budgeted film. I did that in about 7 days over a year, and we sold it to Live Entertainment. They released it on 400 screens around the world. Got my agent, ultimately made a second independent movie called Kissing a Fool with David Schwimmer and Jason Lee and Bonnie Hunt and Mili Avital. We sold that to Universal Studios, and it was released on 2,200 screens. So I had made 2 independent movies that both got picked up.
How old were you at that point? I'm curious.
Kissing a Fool came out in 96. So I guess I'm like, my brain doesn't work for numbers anymore. Maybe 28, 29 or something like that.
That's quick. Out of college, a few motion pictures. That's great.
Yep. And then Kissing a Fool came out, and I talk about this a lot because it had so much influence on Entourage, but Kissing a Fool was this independent movie that was made for about $1 million and released worldwide. Before that movie was released, I was offered, you can't imagine how many things I was offered and turned down. Then the movie came out, and there was nobody who said it was an independent movie. It was released like it was a giant studio movie, and I think we opened up against The Wedding Singer and whatever else.
Yeah.
We made $2.3 million. The movie cost $1 million to make.
Yeah.
Nobody cared. They thought it cost $30 million to make. It was like on the cover of Variety is like the reason for the downfall of the Universal marketing staff. I mean, really bizarre stuff that I ultimately used in Entourage, because whether it was again, I'm proud of the movie, but whether it was good, great, or not, it was an incredible, amazing achievement for all of us that were involved to take a movie, make it independently, and get it released on that type of scale. But that being said, when it came out, I'm not joking, I was literally unemployable. Everything evaporated. I could not get a job at anything. And whatever that was, 29, 30, I was married, had a house that I already bought from Hollywood earnings. All of a sudden, it was like over. So I was looking at taking the LSATs and going back to law school after making 2 movies and making enough money to live a life out here. Someone convinced me to get into TV. I wrote a Curb Your Enthusiasm spec script, which means I just sat in my house by myself and wrote my favorite show's script, which it's crazy. Like Curb is still on, and that's the script I wrote. But anyway, I gave it to my manager, who represented Mark Wahlberg and was my friend from college. And he said, God, we had this idea called Entourage, and you should write it. I was like, oh, you didn't think of me till I gave you this script. You know me for the last 15 years. But anyway, that's how it happens. You need to be in front of the people at the right moment at the right time. Anyway, I didn't actually like the idea for the show. I thought it sounded kind of stupid. And he said to me, go home and figure it out. And that's where it all started. So
awesome. Got it. And so, yeah, actually, and I asked for a bunch of questions. My friends and I literally in college used to buy a bottle of champagne on Sundays and watch Entourage, just so we felt that, we were all ready to move back to LA and live the life, and that would be the right.
I like that. So, where'd you go to college?
Arizona.
Nice. That's where.
Yeah.
My son almost went there. He was deciding between Arizona and GW, but he's going to GW. So GW
is solid. Very different experience, but it's a good school.
For sure.
But yeah, I got some questions there. So how involved was Mark along the way? I was curious in terms of was he hands-on with the writing? I know it was loosely based on.
No, he wasn't hands-on with the writing, but Mark was as good of a producer as you could have. Mark was, would be the guy that get us what we needed, whether it was Marty Scorsese or Tom Brady or Mark himself. Yeah. He really from the beginning kind of said, you got to make it your own thing, obviously, and just, put your best into it. And that's what I did. Mark was always just very supportive and stuff. His manager, Steve Levinson, who was the one who first brought it to me with Mark, he was very hands-on, and certainly in the beginning. So I had Mark's experiences through his eyes a little bit.
Nice. Awesome. And on a similar note, did you guys work with WME? Was this through them? Where'd the Ari character come from? Is that
the Ari character came from, I had written for the pitch to get ready to go sell to HBO, which at the time was like, the only game in town if you wanted to do content that was not network. I mean, that was the place, and they were doing very few stuff and very high-end stuff. So I had written my pitch, is what we call it. You're going into that, and I had written Jeremy Piven, who I liked from Larry Sanders' show and other things, but I had written him into the outline, playing my agent, who was a guy named Jeff Jacobs at CAA at the time. Yep. And Jeff represented me, and Mark and Steve Levinson were represented by Ari. So Mark wasn't at the HBO meeting, but Steve and Ari were. And the second I met Ari, I was like, okay, this guy, I never heard of him before that, by the way. So this is 2001. But the second I met him, I said, this is a character. And then when I saw Jeremy, who had, kind of transformed himself, his body and everything, he got into great physical shape, he kind of looked like Ari. So it was a perfect match.
Nice. That's awesome. And I mean, did Ari have a part, meaning Ari Emanuel, did he have a part in that at all in terms of, did you actually sit down with him over meetings and stuff to continue to bring out that character over the course of the show? Or was
Ari, one thing I do well is I'm a good observationalist, and I got Ari quickly, although he thinks he's far funnier than the character I wrote. But I would hear things, and when I hung out with Ari, I would just take it in, and he's such a great character. Now, again, the character does morph. There's a lot of the real Ari in there. There's a lot of my stuff in there. I mean, Ari's wife on the show is based on my wife. My son actually plays their son. And there were elements of the character that were taken from my own life. But Ari Emanuel was such a great, powerful, forceful, interesting, funny guy that he immediately had to become a character in this. So.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And it's funny. It sounds similar to Larry David's actually close family friends. So we spent some time with him, and he's always taking notes on what's going on around him for those little innuendos in the show and stuff. It's just a great way to work. So next one, call it Nostradamus or, prophetic or whatever, but I was asked how you came up with Aquaman, Great Gatsby. You seem to know what was coming in terms of Hollywood blockbusters. And
Aquaman's a weird one because we thought Aquaman was supposed to be I would obsess over little details. And my thought on Aquaman is that sounded like a horrible movie. And the only way it sounded like a good movie is if one person directed it. And that was James Cameron at the time. Yeah. Which it did. And this was way before superhero movies had come back into fashion. So it was really done as a joke because I needed the turn of who the hell wants to do Aquaman? Oh, wait, James Cameron's Aquaman? Everyone wants to do that. Now, 15 years later, it not only sounded like a good movie, but they made a good movie. And the technology had advanced to a point that they could do something like that. But that really came from that. The other ones, have all different versions of just things that I liked. Medellin was, I was reading a book called Killing Pablo on a vacation. And I was like, this would be a great movie. And allegedly, and I don't remember if I ever confirmed it, but Oliver Stone said that Ari Gold, not Ari Emanuel, but Ari Gold got him into doing the Pablo Escobar story, which I don't even remember if we ever ended up making the movie. But a lot of those things were just things that interested me and I thought sounded cool. And a lot of them were getting to, work with my favorite directors, whether it was Frank Darabont or Martin Scorsese. So, those were kind of where they came from.
Nice. And so how do you feel about the movie being the capstone of all this? Were you very happy with how that came out? How did that come to be?
I was very happy with how the movie came out, and we tested through the roof at Warner Brothers. I think what's interesting about times that people sometimes don't see them coming, which I think right now, the movement that we have going right now, I think some people didn't realize that it was just bubbling under the surface. And I think the same thing was with the Me Too movement in 2015. I think the movie, to be honest with you, was supposed to be released a year earlier, which sounds like not that much, but I think it would have made a big difference for how it was received. Because in my opinion, the movie was exactly what the show is. And the critics loved the television show and then just killed the movie. And basically, some people have sort of revised history of the show, that it was some sexist boys club, when the truth is we were nominated for an Emmy and a Golden Globe and Writers Guild every single year. But now it's which hopefully that'll ease up and things will change. But I was very happy with the movie. Of course, you want it to be more successful both financially and critically, but it is what it is. So.
Yeah, as again a fan, I saw the movie as just an elongated episode, and it was great.
That's all it was. But I was happy that the show was done. I thought we did our run, but everybody wanted to do the movie, and obviously I get paid well to do that. But I was not dying to do the movie, and I probably burned a year longer than I should have. So
fair enough. And so on that note, do you think anything's coming back? Do you think there will be a reunion or a second movie, or if you guys discussed anything like that?
Well, we're doing a podcast right now with Kevin Dillon, Kevin Connolly, and I. We'll plug that, Victory the Podcast, which is live now, and we were lucky enough to get the #1 spot in TV and film in the first week with really no advertising at all from it. So it's been really fun to get together with. So far, we've had, it's Kevin Connolly, Kevin Dillon, and I, but we had Jerry Ferrara on last week, and Gary Busey and Larry Charles, who was one of the great producer-writers early on in the show. So it's been really great getting back together and forgetting whether it's Entourage or something. It's just, we like hanging out and working with each other, so we'll probably come up with something to do. Kevin Connolly and I are working on a different show together that's completely separate from Entourage. And Kevin Dillon and I have been talking about something animated for a long time. So
I was asked if you're going to do Viking Quest, the cartoon.
I don't think it'll be anything Entourage related, but I think we'll do something. Kevin Dillon has such a great, unique voice that I think there's a lot of characters he could play. So
Nice. And so, yeah, what else have you been working on since? Like, is it something, you seem to have a lot going on up until Entourage ended, and then it looks like you've taken a break, or is that just
listen, that's how people view the business. But I won an Emmy for producing a 30 for 30 on the 69-72 Knicks, which was called When the Garden Was Eden, a 30 for 30. I did another documentary with a friend of mine, Eduardo Garcia. I produced a show with Spike Lee and John Ridley that it didn't end up going. Also created my own show that didn't end up going with Eddie Burns and Michael Rappaport and Michael Imperioli. I've written numbers of scripts, rewritten for things. So, I've definitely, I've been, pretty consistently working for the last 5 years. But unless you have a hit, that's kind of how people kind of view it.
And I was going off your IMDb, so,
it is what it is. And also, the truth is, I wasn't that anxious to get back into the grind of being a showrunner and this and that. But right now I'm working on 2 shows. I'm writing a script for Thierry Henry. It's like loosely inspired by his life. He's a famous footballer and he's from France. But so I'm working on that. And then I'm working on something else, as I said, with Kevin Connolly. So, and the podcast is taking up some time since we're not really allowed out of our house right now.
Yeah, no, and that's why we're here right now too.
Yep.
Finally, I'm usually on the road half the time, and I'm finally grounded enough to sit down and record some stuff. So it's good. Right. And so the other side of this is I've also noticed you're somewhat of a food expert. So I'd love to know.
I'm not an expert. I definitely like it.
You seem to nail some pretty good spots. So would love to know like top 5 favorite spots in LA, or give some advice on that side.
Favorite spots.
Yeah. Let's do some plugs.
Medeo.
Yep.
John and Vinny's. I'm just trying to think where I go all the time. Din Tai Fung. Justa.
Yep.
And I get Harold and Bell's, which is great Cajun food. I went to school in New Orleans, and that place is amazing on Crenshaw and Jefferson.
Uh-huh.
And where am I getting cookies? The Luscious cookies and Dr. Shika brownies. What else? There's so many good places. It's now to look at when I got to LA in 1990 and how the restaurant scene has changed. But those are kind of like my go-to spots.
Yeah, I have a lot of chef friends that they all moved to New York because there is no food scene in LA, and now it's like finally it's the up and coming place you want to be. It's great. So last question for me is kind of what is next? What are you aspiring for now? You've done something frankly so iconic in your life. Like what would be exciting to you down the line? What are you looking for?
To be honest with you, I the podcast, which I really am doing for fun, but it was something that I wanted to do my whole life, which was a radio show or a talk show. So I'm just finding myself in this, but I find it much more enjoyable than sitting in my room by myself and writing. So I'm hoping that works. And the idea for this podcast is for it to be far more than just Entourage, and hopefully be an entertaining half hour, 45 minutes with your buddies. So I feel good about that. And then, as I said, I've got 2 scripts that if the world ever gets right, we're working on, and hopefully we'll get into production. But, we'll see whether I want to run another show or not for 8 years, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I don't know. But just like everybody else, trying to survive right now.
Appreciate it, man. Well, thank you for being here.
You got it.
All right. Talk soon.
Good talking to you. Take care.
You too.
All right. Bye.
You've been listening to the Hawke Media Podcast. To ensure that you never miss an episode, make sure to subscribe to the show in iTunes or your favorite podcast player. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.